Hello there. Welcome to what? Mind Your Business. I am so happy today. I have a brilliant interview I'm about to do. Yes, I am prophesying that this interview is going to be brilliant. I admire this woman. Yes, and I know I admire all the people that I interview by God's grace. Let's just say I love what I do, right? Anyway, before I go on jabbing, I am Amma Duncan, founder of the Fabulous Woman Network. I love to support the growth of individuals through coaching, consulting, corporate training, mentoring, events, anything, as long as it helps us to grow. Now, Mind Your Business is my weekly podcast, and here we get to talk about business and how to grow it. Well, that also means growing ourselves as individuals, right? And today I have the honor of interviewing a very, very fabulous woman. Right, so who am I interviewing today that I'm so excited about? This is a woman I've admired for so long, maybe 4 or 5 years now. And I only just saw her from afar and thought, that's a fabulous woman. And that was even way before I read about the different things she's doing. And I was like, she literally makes me go, okay, let me stop here and then read her bio. So her name is Dr. Afua Oteng Asare. She's a Ghanaian-trained optometrist and vision health researcher, passionate about vision health outcomes in disadvantaged and vulnerable populations. Her research focuses on understanding the barriers and disparities in access to vision care services and creating effective vision care interventions to improve vision health outcomes among the disadvantaged. Besides a Doctor of Optometry degree from the from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Dr. Oteng Asare has a Master's in Public Health degree from Harvard University, a Master's in Vision Science degree from the University of Waterloo, and a Ph.D. in Health Policy, Management and Evaluation from the University of Toronto. During her years of study, she obtained many academic awards, which include, but are not limited to, the Harvard Presidential Tuition Scholarship 2010 from the Harvard University, the Ross C. Peirce Doctoral Fellowship in 2018 from the Canadian National Institute of the Blind, and on 2 occasions, the prestigious Ezell Fellowship from the American Academy of Optometry. Dr. Oteng Asare has presented scientific research at several scientific meetings and published 11 research studies in American, Canadian, and Ghanaian scientific journals. Dr. Oteng Asare lives with her husband and 2 young children in Salt Lake City in Utah in the United States. She is employed as an assistant professor at the Department of Ophthalmology. Please don't go laughing at me. I said it right. Ophthalmology and Visual Sciences and the John A. Moran Eye Center at the University of Utah, and sits on 2 eye health committees with Prevent Blindness. In her spare time, Afua enjoys traveling, hiking, working out, and playing with her children. I just love to read bios such as these, a woman who is making things happen in her ginormous corner. Ladies, gentlemen, get your glass of water, coffee, whatever you fancy. Make sure you have your notepad and pen. This will be good.
Well, thank you, Amma. It's quite an honor to be interviewed by you, by the famous Amma Duncan. That's what I said earlier, and I mean it.
Thank you so much. So I know that you live in the US, but you're from Ghana. And before we go into, I've already introduced you and talked about all the different things you've accomplished, and we are going to go into a few of them. But please tell us about your childhood here in Ghana, because for some time you lived here. And what are some of the experiences that has shaped you to be the Dr. Afua Oteng Asare that we celebrate today?
Thank you, Amma. So my journey has been somewhat interesting. So I grew up in Ghana, yes, I did. And I also grew up in Papua New Guinea, which I'm not sure if you are aware. So I actually, at a very young age, started off in Papua New Guinea. My parents so my dad worked at the Forestry Research Institute in Port Moresby, which is the capital of Papua New Guinea. And my mother was a teacher at one of the international schools. In fact, I ended up going to that international school. And so my experiences started from there. And then later on, we moved back to Ghana and it continued. But what I can say is my parents, they had humble beginnings. They came from somewhat humble beginnings. My mother always says that I was a village girl, and my dad as well. And education is what got them through and helped them to achieve whatever they've achieved. And they've achieved so much over their lives together. So education was a big thing in our family right from day one. Like my parents would be on top of, homework assignments, exams. It's like they were writing the exam themselves, and they would be so invested in everything. Like if whatever kind of scores we get, whether it's for a homework assignment, whether it's for an examination, it doesn't matter. But they were always very keen to know what our grades were. And I say we because I have 2 older brothers. And so we would always be nervous whenever we were coming home and we know our grades are not, if it's not 100%, even if it's say, 75 or 80, then we're nervous because we're like, oh man, mom and dad are not going to be happy with us. So the education has always been a big deal in our lives. And this has definitely paid off because you already know a little bit about how far I have gone, but my brothers as well have done remarkable things. My oldest brother also has a Ph.D. In electrical engineering. And my other brother is a surgeon. And this all just stems from both of them, especially my dad, because my dad essentially did a PhD in the 80s, when PhDs were rare. These days, everyone seems to have a PhD, but back then, that was a big deal. So he got a PhD in the US. And so he, grew up in that kind of environment of education being the key thing to get one out of, whatever situation they may find themselves in. And my parents have always, besides, education, they have been what I describe our number one fans, like from day one, constantly motivating us to achieve things. Even when we ourselves would think that we are not capable of doing something, or we are overwhelmed and we feel like, okay, this is too much, I need to let it go. No, like they are constantly on your back. Just, I say, massaging our egos, telling us like, you are good, you are excellent, you can do this. To this day, they've always been there to sort of encourage and push us forward. And so that as well has sort of followed me, all these years. And then finally, I can also say, I mentioned I had 2 older brothers. So I was the only female amongst boys. And so I just grew up in that environment of, having boys around me all the time. So I became quite tough. In fact, as a child, I was quite the tomboy.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I always tell the story of how I would, and this is probably, grade 1, grade 2. I'll come back home from school and my brothers would walk around with just their shorts, like shirtless. My brothers are going around shirtless, so why not me, right? So I'll come home, I'll just be wearing my shorts and walking around and running after them, So that I think also has made me quite tough and not afraid of competition, not afraid of, of competing against men. I've often find myself in situations where I'm the only female, but that hasn't really shaken me in any way. In other words, it just motivates me to continue going. And so I think all of these things, the education, my parents pushing education, their constant motivation and encouragement of us, no matter what we were trying to gain. And then being the only female amongst boys has definitely all helped in bringing me to the stage that I am today.
So I didn't know about the Papua New Guinea. I actually thought you were going to say Australia, but Anyways, yeah, let me just give a shout out to Opening and Auntie Sisi, who are, well, I guess we are sisters because they are my parents too, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Oh no, they are parents to many, so I've accepted that I have siblings, some I don't even know of. So
yeah. And I really appreciate the fact that you in your story, you mentioned how they played a key role. And even looking at them now, I can see they are like strict. I have seen them with the students and the way they are like, ooh, you better behave, you know? And so, yeah, I really, and it's encouraging to me as a young mother as well. I'm thinking, okay, Amma, you need to do better, you need to do better. So this is notes to self. Thank you for sharing that. As I was reading your bio, I kept thinking, and I know your bio is just like 2 or 3 paragraphs of your entire life and accomplishments. What stood out for me was the fact that everywhere you went, you stood out really, really, like you won this big award in Harvard and here. And I'm thinking, and she's Ghanaian like me, you know? So I'm interested, what is your strategy? Because many of these things you were also doing it along doing other things, like being a mother and all these other things. So what strategy have you been adopting in order to be able to stand out wherever you find yourself, doing something that's already big in itself, and then you get like a distinction or a huge award? How do you do
it? So I guess, it's a couple things. For instance, I never take any task for granted, like no matter what, how seemingly small it may appear, I make sure to prepare towards that task, put a few notes down. If it's maybe a speaking engagement, maybe I'm going to speak to a group of people, even if it's, a group of children, perhaps I will still take the time to sit down and put some notes down. So no matter how small or big the task is, talking to children or a PhD oral examination, I always try to at least sit down and think through, put my thoughts together, put some notes down before I take up whatever task that might be. And I think over the years, I've learned a lot from all kinds of people, regardless of, let me just put it this way, I always try to treat every person that comes my way with respect. And I always try to be a good listener because I believe that no matter what a person's background might be, they will have something to teach you. They have had some experiences that you have not learned from, So just taking that time to respect all people and being a good listener, being open to talking to people too has been a big thing. Especially when I moved to the US, I came to realize just how important it is to be confident, how important it is to speak up and to be open and friendly to all people. And it's just amazing when you're confident and you speak up, people are, I like to say that they put more value over here. They put more value on how you carry yourself, how you speak, as opposed to what your credentials may be or what you may have written down. So yeah, if you can't speak up for yourself and you have credentials from A to Z, it doesn't seem to make as much of an impact. And then just being open to talking to people from all kinds of background, like I said, and giving them that due respect has made me, it sometimes it leads to opportunities that you would have never dreamt of. And then what else can I say? Yeah, and then I think another thing too is, always first impressions last, right? So just always making sure that you look good, no matter where you are, no matter who you're talking to. You never know, right? An auntie of mine will tell you, you never know who will show up at your door, right? So just making sure that, the last thing you want is for someone to have a bad impression of you. And so dressing appropriately. And again, I live in the US, and I'm sure, and our listeners know about all these racial issues, right? So already, unfortunately, for the color of your skin, people are already looking down on you. So the last thing you want is for them to have a bad impression, a further bad impression, right? Because already they tend to think a certain way. So making sure that you look good, and again, speaking confidently, being open, all makes a huge difference. I think these are some of the things that perhaps have helped me over the years. And maybe one more thing is just giving everything 100%. Again, I talked about preparing adequately for every task and giving every task your 100%, no matter how small or large that task might be. I think those are a few things I can talk about.
I mean, the more I hear you talk about this, giving things 100%, spending time to prepare, listening to people, paying attention, I'm thinking all these are time consuming. We all have 24 hours a day. How is it possible for you? Like, you have young children, you are doing, how many PhDs do you even have now? You are a research fellow, you are an ophthalmologist. I mean, that big word that I'm always struggling to mention. You're so many things. How is it possible that you are still able? One of the things that personally I'm working on is just being able to pay attention when listening to my kids. And then they're always like, Mommy, you're not even listening. My oldest girl, she's always rolling her eyes at me. She says that she says something to me and I respond 15 minutes later because
oh boy.
Not long.
Yeah.
So you've got to teach us some skills. How do we be present? This is something I'm actually learning in 2021.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the skills I'm learning, how to be present. When we have so many things happening around us, being a mother, wife, daughter, career woman, I'm sure you're a church person and all these. How are you able to show up fully for each of these roles?
Yeah, it's not easy, definitely. It's always a struggle. I can't say that I have mastered it 100%. I do have, I guess, some strategies, but I'm still struggling with that myself. But I think one important thing is just to take advantage of every minute. Yes, it's 24 hours, but 24 hours can feel like 48 if you just make sure to take, to not waste every minute. So when I talk about that, sometimes, for instance, if I'm going to drop my child off at daycare, for instance, I can have, I'll put a podcast on or kind of audio related to a task that I might be wanting to achieve. So even in those minutes that I'm driving, I'm achieving something while I'm not just the driving, but I'm also listening and maybe educating myself or preparing by listening to some kind of material. Another thing I say is, again, little things, like even if you're in the bathroom, you have your phone. Thankfully, our phones these days are like computers in their self. As long as you have internet, you can have access to 100, anything you want, essentially. So sometimes if I'm in the bathroom, yes, I'm in the bathroom, but I'm also doing stuff on my phone. Like, again, as you mentioned, I'm a mother. And that comes with little things like even just keep purchasing things for the house, for example. So whilst I'm there, I'm making my purchases on the phone. And whilst getting the kids ready, you know what kids are like, especially when they're very young. A simple thing like bathing, essentially, that can take 10 minutes, can take 20. And so sometimes whilst the child is bathing and busy with her toys and focused on that, like she's not looking to me for anything, but she's focusing on her toys, then I can be doing a little something on my phone whilst she also does that. So just taking advantage of all these little pieces of time. But again, one thing that I'm working hard on is in each moment being 100% present. So yes, I have tasks, I have a career which comes with goals. Maybe I'm writing a paper, I have to go give an oral presentation. Sometimes it can be very overwhelming, but there's much more to life than just, one's career or one's goals, right? So I try to remind myself that. And so at each point in time, just being present, if I'm with my husband, trying to be 100% present in that time. And yes, I have tasks. I will do the best I can once it gets to the time allotted to doing career work. Then I put my 100% and make adequate use of that time, if you get what I mean. Mm-hmm. And then if I'm with my children, also playing with them, I try as hard as it can be sometimes. Put my phone down. Sometimes I put it as far away as possible because I know if it's near me, before I know it, I'll be picking it up again. But if my child wants my attention and wants to chat, I try to put the phone away and be 100% present in that moment. And then, once the children are asleep, you can stay up. Yeah, sleep is important, but as human beings, we learn to adapt. So you might not necessarily be getting your 8 hours of sleep, but you can be getting your 6 hours. And then later on, maybe in the weekend, you can try to take a nap to try to take care of, the whatever time that you might have, if you're tired, right, to make up for that time that you may have missed out on. So just, little things here and there, taking advantage of every spare minute that might come your way. And then I think another thing I can quickly talk of is not being afraid to ask for help. During my PhD, I think in my third year, so that's like the thick of the PhD when I was starting the research, was when I had my first child. So she's now 2+, about 2.5. And so once I had her, I realized that if I really wanted to finish my PhD in due time, like I didn't want to spend 10 years in a PhD program, right? I wanted to finish as quickly as possible, but I also wanted to do good work. And if I wanted to be able to do that, I needed to be able to ask for help with taking care of my child. My husband is a pretty busy person too. He's a doctor, so it's like he's up in the morning, he leaves early, and he's back quite late at night sometimes. And so thankfully, my mother, who you know very well, she was able to come down for a good 4 months with the first baby, and so she was there to help me for those 4 months. And then when she left a couple months later, we decided that, as much as we would like to, as I would like to watch my child on my own 100%, I need this help. So we decided to pay for a nanny to come in a couple hours a week. I think we were just doing 20 hours a week. So during the time that the nanny would be here, then I would be able to focus on my work. And she would be here till I think like 4 p.m. when she leaves, and I revert back to my mother role, right? And I remember initially I felt quite guilty about it because I'm like, this is my child. I should be the one taking care of her. Why should I be having a stranger come and take care? But with time, I realized that if I want to be the best person I can be for my child and for my husband, then, I need to ask for the help. If I'm going to be doing this 100% and also working on my PhD 100%, you can imagine what kind of person I'll be. I won't be a very happy person. Exactly. I'll probably be taking it out on my family. So it was in their best interest too that we seek the help where needed. And I think as women, sometimes we tend to think we are superwomen, right? But we need the help. Don't be afraid to ask for it. And if it means paying for it, it's best for your own mental health and for the well-being of your family. So not to be afraid to sometimes make these sacrifices. Yeah.
Absolutely. So profound what you just said. And yes, for our own well-being and our mental health and even for, our bodies to be in great shape. Is that the right English that I'm pulling? But I really totally get what it is you're saying. And sometimes we stress ourselves. I also used to think that as a wife, I have to cook my husband's meal.
Oh, yeah.
By myself. I had all perception. And look, it was hard. And then I had to travel for months. And I was like, okay, how's he going to be fed? So sometimes we make all these unrealistic rules and realize that actually, no, we don't have to go through that. So I really appreciate the bit about help. I really hope somebody is sitting there listening and is like, oh my God, she just liberated me. So thank you for that. We will come to your profession shortly so you can advise us. But also for a woman like you, perhaps in Ghana or another place, currently trying to pursue something big, maybe in education or something, but she's also a mother. She's a wife. She's trying to do a lot of different things. And she gets overwhelmed sometimes. Mm-hmm. What can you share based on your experience? Because I heard you say along the way that sometimes you feel overwhelmed. What can you say to her to come out of that phase of or that season of overwhelm and then keep going?
Yeah, I think definitely having a supportive spouse helps a lot. Someone who understands what your goals are, and someone that you can talk to, right? Having a supportive spouse that you can talk to. Ideally, you want all of these things to be in a spouse, but worst case scenario, if you feel like your spouse isn't enough as far as being able to support and speak to you, just having a trustworthy friend that you can talk to, especially in these times of feeling overwhelmed. I just feel like talking about it alone tends to make me feel a lot better. Having a different perspective to help you through has really helped. And then again, just reminding yourself that, Rome wasn't built in a day, and at the end of the day, you are human, right? You would do the best that you can, but you can't do it all, right? And so just those little reminders. And then if you're religious, of course, I think prayer really helps, speaking to your Father about those tight moments. And, he always comes through. I always feel like he has always come through all these years for me when I'm in a tight space. So, speaking to someone very close to you, ideally a spouse, if not a very close friend, reminding yourself that, yes, you are, that you have a lot to achieve, but Rome wasn't built in a day. You're not superhuman. You will do the best that you can, and whatever else there is, it will work itself out. Everything seems to work out at the end of the day, yes. No matter what the situation is. And then just speaking to your Father, if you are Father spiritual, or should I say God, if you are spiritual. So I think those are the things we can mention.
I definitely love it, especially speaking to Daddy upstairs. Yeah, that's what I call him, Daddy upstairs. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, okay, so I'm going to try to mention your profession. Ophthalmologist, did I get it right? Or optometrist. So I know there are two different things. Could you please just educate us?
Sure, definitely. There's always tends to be confusion about those two professions. So an optometrist, I would say, so an optometrist, depending on where the training is done, optometry may or may not be come with the doctor title. Let me just put it that way. So in Ghana, it is a Doctor of Optometry. In other words, by the time when you complete, they give you that doctor title. It's a professional health title of a doctor. But in other parts of the world, it's not like that, where you're an optometrist, but you're not necessarily given that title. And that usually depends on the number of years of training. So in Ghana, it's a 6-year program for the Doctor of Optometry, whereas in other places, like I believe the UK, I think it's just about 4 years of training. And so the optometrist is, should I say, the primary eye care professionals. In other words, the optometrist is supposed to be the first person you go to when you have an eye care problem, all right? Then the optometrist then, if need be, so mainly if you're requiring surgery or you're requiring some certain types of medication, optometrists are not trained to do that. So at that point, if your condition is something of that sort, then they refer you to the specialist eye care professional, who is the ophthalmologist. And ophthalmologists, they actually go to medical school and then they specialize. So ophthalmology is like maybe saying for example, maybe a cardiologist, right? So a cardiologist will go to medical school and then he'll do additional training to specialize in conditions of the heart. So that's how an ophthalmologist will go to medical school and then specialize in eye care surgery, and advanced eye care diseases. And so the optometrist tends to be the one who you will see when you need glasses, for example. Okay. You need glasses, and then minor eye conditions like maybe conjunctivitis. That's what do we call conjunctivitis? Apollo in Ghana.
Apollo. Yeah. Oh, is that the fancy name?
Yeah, that's the fancy name. So, so minor eye conditions, conjunctivitis, allergic reactions to the eye, some uveitis. They can treat glaucoma to some extent too, but if you require surgery for that glaucoma, then they would refer you on to the ophthalmologist. So in a nutshell, that's the difference between.
Wow, this is the first time ever that I've actually had that clarification. Thank you so much. So now the majority of our followers are women in business like myself, other people are corporate women and all that. And, like I have been wearing glasses since the age of 12 or maybe even before. And so I remember my daughter's school, they had their eyes tested, and at about 7 or 8, they said she had to wear glasses. I was like, no.
Yeah.
That they did that to me, and now I'm stuck with it. But yeah, after some time, I had to just give in, and then girl hair glasses. Please, what advice do you have for us with these weather conditions and all that in terms of eye care, especially for women? What should we look out for? What tips can you give us, please?
Yeah, definitely. Women actually, there's some statistics showing that across the globe, 55% of individuals with vision loss are women. So women are more prone to eye disease and blindness as opposed to men. And that's for various reasons. Sometimes just for the fact that we are women, we are more at risk of certain conditions. And then also women tend to live longer. And so some of these eye conditions are age-related. In other words, they happen to people in later years of life. And because women generally tend to live longer, they are more likely to have some of these eye conditions. And then in some countries, women tend to have, compared to men, tend to have less access to healthcare services, especially eye care services. And so in terms of things that we can do, it might sound very simple, but just the importance of regular eye exams are extremely important. If you have no underlying risk factors, like maybe you don't have, there's no vision loss in your family, you don't have diabetes, which diabetes can cause eye problems too. So if you don't have any underlying risk factors, we usually still advise maybe every 2 to 3 years to have an eye exam. And that's because some of these eye conditions like glaucoma, which is a big problem in our part of the world. Initially, when glaucoma starts, there's no signs, no symptoms of it. The only way it can be detected is by an eye care professional looking into your eye, especially at the back of the eye. The condition, like many other healthcare conditions, can be managed much better if it's detected early, right? And so if you're not doing these regular eye exams, it can go unnoticed before. And by the time you realize that you're not seeing as well, sadly, there wouldn't be much that eye care treatments eye care professionals can do to save your vision. And then to regular eye exams to your optometrist, ideally, and if need be, your optometrist can refer you to a ophthalmologist. And then just eating well. Nutrition plays a huge role in the quality of our vision. So basically, I just say a balanced diet, but most importantly, like green leafy vegetables, which will give you vitamin A, vitamin C. So that can also come from fruits. Zinc is important for our eyes. Green leafy vegetables, fruits, nuts. But, basically, as I'm mentioning these things, as you can see, fish is also another good one because it gives us DHA, which is good for our eyes. So as I'm mentioning these things, you're just realizing it's various food groups. So most importantly, just trying as much as possible to eat, to have a balanced diet. Unfortunately, when it comes to like wearing glasses, a lot of that it's not something that you can really prevent. So glasses for, should I say, short-sightedness, long-sightedness, and what they call astigmatism, which is blurred vision. So it can be whether far or near. So usually there's not much you can do about that. It tends to be related to like family. So if short-sightedness is in your family, very likely your children may have it too. And even if it's not family, related to, if it doesn't necessarily run in your family, sometimes some children are just born with what we say a longer eye or a shorter eye, which causes, these refractive errors, which is myopia, hyperopia, short-sightedness, long-sightedness, and astigmatism. Inadvertently, glasses is really the only thing, or glasses or contact lenses Laser surgery is also another one.
Big glasses, contact lenses, no?
Yeah, well, the contact lenses are, personally, I'm not too quick to recommend contact lenses, especially in our environment back home in Ghana, because it's just so dusty. So much dust in the environment. And if dust gets between this contact lens and your eye, so if your contact lenses are not properly taken care of, it can cause major eye problems. So I'm not quick to recommend contact lenses, but that it still is one of the ways to treat refractive errors. So maybe these are just some of the things that I can talk about.
Then, we've heard this thing about carrots and eyes. Is it like it has some special magical powers or something?
Yeah, it's again, about this balanced diet. So yes, as part of, I mentioned green leafy vegetables, and I mentioned vitamin C, which can come from carrots too. So fruits such as carrots and generally, citrus products too, so oranges. So yes, they all play a role in various parts of the eye, the back of the eye especially. Carrots are important, just like all the other foods that I talked about.
I've already learned so much from you, but before I let you go, I have a few questions I want to ask. Sure. These are short phrases that you just complete. So the first one is, if I could advise my younger self in one short sentence, I would say,
I'd say get out and live a little. Yeah, so maybe to speak a little bit more to that, career education is all important, but it's not everything, right? One needs to learn to enjoy life a little more. I feel like sometimes when I look back, I'm like, I feel like I was just studying way too much. I should have enjoyed life a little bit more, right? So I just tell myself to relax a little and get out and have a bit more fun.
That's really beautiful advice. I mean, you've done so much and we admire and love and respect it. And I think, in addition to all the accomplishments, we can also have fun, right? Yeah. So, although I was wondering that maybe if you had just had a little more fun, I don't know how it would have, the balance would have been so.
Anyway, yes, that's a good point too.
Yeah, anyway. And next question. I am fabulous because...
I am fabulous because I'm created by the Most High God. I think that's what comes to mind. Yeah,
that's perfect.
I was fearfully and wonderfully made. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I think
fantastic, fantastic. And then, in terms of reading, one book that has really challenged you and helped you, like a book that you can remember from whenever, that has really
I was thinking along these lines just the other day, actually. And sadly, because of all the studying I've done, it got to a point in time I wasn't reading as much. It was like everything I was reading was academic. But I'm trying to, change a little more. But yeah, definitely one book that I think stands out to me that I read many years ago was The Purpose-Driven Life.
Oh, Rick Warren.
Rick Warren, yeah. Yeah, so I think that book has definitely influenced me and my activities, over the years. I think that's probably one book has definitely stood out for me.
Yeah, you've just given me another idea. Thank you. So I have myself, and I was thinking, actually, all the people who come to me and say, "Oh, I can't find my purpose," maybe we should do the 40-day challenge, with them.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I should pay you for consultation because
you see, yep. Come and see me in my chambers.
Yes. Thank you so much. So for anyone watching who wants to be able to reach out to you, before I even ask that question, I want to say thank you, Afua. Thank you. There are so many people like you who would rather just hide what they're doing and quietly, I've accomplished something, and then they are quiet about it. I love that when you accomplish something, you are not, what's the word? modest or whatever about it, but you let it out there because it's an example to what is possible for the rest of us. For a young girl sitting here, they can look and say, oh my God, if she can do it, she's Black like me, so can I. So thank you so much for sharing, because I saw this on LinkedIn and that's when I was like, Auntie Sisi, please. So actually it was, so you know Anna Foggio, lawyer Anna Foggio.
I do, yes.
So when I reached out to first and then I was like, okay, let me just go to Auntie Sisi directly. Yeah, so thank you for sharing, because things like this really, really encourage the rest of us. So thank you. Now, what was I even going to ask before? I forgot to. Oh, I think I was going to ask you about how to reach you or reach out to you if anyone wants to.
Yeah, I think email is probably the best way to get a hold of me. I'm always checking my email. So my email address would be Afua, A-F-U-A, Amoako, A-M-O-A-K-O @gmail.com. So Afua Amoako all together @gmail.com. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter.
Instagram? Oh my God.
I am on Instagram, but do I want to share my handle here? I'm not sure.
Is that why you hide?
Yeah, that's where I hide and let loose a little bit. So I can share that with you later.
Yeah, I understand.
So email would be the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, and I'm going to add that in the caption as well for anyone who wants to reach out.
Sure.
Thank you so much. And I really, really hope that by some miracle you're coming in March, because we're also going to have mentorship activities for the kids.
Okay.
It will be amazing for you to be part. I mean, I don't know what kind of prayer I will have to pray to God here in March, but you know, Daddy upstairs, he always knows.
Oh yeah, so it's meant to be. It'll be
exactly.
I'm definitely due for a trip back home, so we'll see.
I've missed you.
Thank you. I've missed you guys too. I've missed everyone.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much. Say thanks to Dr. Asare and the two lovely girls for giving you to us for almost an hour. We are really, really grateful.
No, thank you too, Emma. And I'll make sure they all hear.
Sure. Ladies, how was this? Oh, sorry, and gentlemen. I just loved talking to this woman. You know, talking to her makes me feel like there is hope, right? I loved when she mentioned things like, you know, sometimes when she's driving, she's also listening to a podcast. So that's so me. Being in the bathroom and trying to get another job done, or maybe responding to messages and all. So it feels like, okay, the achievers, this is what they do. So keep doing it, and then you also get what it is that you want to achieve. So I have been really encouraged by her messages and the different things she said. If you're still here watching this, thank you. Please, in the comments, let me know how this particular interview has spoken to you, how this episode of Mind Your Business has spoken to you, what you're going to change or do or train other people on based on what you've heard in this conversation. Oh, I'm just dancing. Anyway, until the next time, same time Tuesday, 12 noon GMT, I'll see you on Mind Your Business. Ta.